we've had vets call us and say that they're being worked to death in their current job to ask us about coming to work for us. And they've learned to value that making good money and having a ton of time off and a good, happy work day is more valuable than having a ton of money and being worked to death 6 or 7 days a week.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske. I'm your host. It's so wonderful to have you with us here today. If this is your first time, welcome to the show. I hope you have a pen and some paper handy because I'm sure you're going to learn something along the way throughout the call. On today's call, I'm going to be talking with entrepreneur and founder of Cheap Pricks, Mr. Matt Bowler. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you, Rick. Excited to be here.
Now, that name, we talked about that momentarily offline, and it's something that I think from a branding perspective is a very, very smart thing to do, and I know that it served you well. I've been reading all of the information, and before I guess we get to the core of the call, Matt, it's customary for us to spend a bit of time learning a little about you for the sake of context. I'm wondering if we can start by asking, where is home for you? Where are you right now?
I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, or just outside of St. Louis.
Wonderful. What's a local landmark that people would be familiar with?
Well, the St. Louis Arch, world famous.
Of course. There you go. For all those people who haven't been there you go. Now, is that been home for you for a long time, or?
Yeah, I was born and raised here. Went to school a few states away, but otherwise I've been here the whole time.
Tell us about your upbringing. Everybody has some fond memories of their childhood. I'd love to learn about one thing that you can recall that you're fond of every time you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, my upbringing was, I'd say pretty normal,
Yes.
and it was full of a lot of sports. So I was always playing sports. Yep.
Yeah, great.
Well, we call it soccer here. I think you probably call it football, and baseball, hockey, a little bit of everything.
Did you have a favorite sport?
Ice hockey, for sure.
Ice hockey, fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I watched a video recently where a little girl was trying to get a puck thrown over the glass wall from one of the professional players. And what's the go with the pucks? Everybody wants the puck. What's so special about it?
I don't know what it is. I've never been one of those people that does that. But they'll beat each other up over it. It's crazy.
It's madness, but I love it. I love it all the same. That passion, that building of a following so passionate about it that they want this. What is it made of? Is it plastic?
It's rubber. It's
rubber.
6 ounces of solid rubber.
Oh, goodness. No wonder it hurts when it hits you. Now,
yeah, it'll hurt you.
Are you a pet lover? Do you have any pets, or did you have
I
any
am
pets?
a pet lover. I have one pet now. I had 4 pets only a few years ago, but you know how it goes with pets. They get old and they go away.
And they go away, and that's a very difficult time. We have 3 large pets of our own, and I think it's quite a conversation we'll have about in terms of cost reduction in a moment or two. But before we do that, now love to learn a bit about the people that help form the man that you've become today. Have you had any people who have influenced you throughout your childhood that have helped develop you, do you think?
Yeah, growing up, it was really kind of whatever was right in front of me. A lot of people have, superheroes or, these larger than life people who were, maybe real or fictitious or otherwise. For me, it was always kind of like the people who were right in front of me who were excelling. And again, at the time, there's a lot of sports related stuff, but sometimes it was academic. I mean, it was always the people who were right in front of me because it was more tangible, so it gave me something to compete against daily. And I think a hero is maybe a tricky word because I wouldn't say they're heroes as much as they were just motivating competitors. But yeah, that's what they were for me.
So in terms of your education, tell us a little bit about that. What's your background?
Sure. Background is actually in IT and this sort of obscure major that only my university offers called Organizational Leadership and Supervision. It's basically a kind of a management type degree, but for the technical environments. So whether it's IT technical environment or like maybe a manufacturing type of environment. So there's some different type of focus there than would be traditional management.
The organisational leadership phrase is certainly not a new one, but in terms of the technical scope, I'm sure it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Now, we touched on some of the things behind you on your wall earlier. I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about motivation. What motivates you?
Yeah, absolutely. What motivates me is impact. Again, it's for me, it's you always have the big grand things, but
Hmm.
it's hard. At least it's hard for me, especially, to take action with an overly large impact or goal in mind. So, I try to start local. How big of an impact can we make locally, and then from there you say, okay, let's get a little bigger. And that's the big motivation for me is impact, and more so lately actually is the ability to impact my employees' lives.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I know that you would have had to have made some pretty monumental decisions about where you were going with the business, and obviously risk is involved in everything we do. And I think the defining difference between the My Future Business Show and others is that we like to explore these things and get people who have walked the path before for those who are listening who may not have. What would you say to them about taking a chance and believing in themselves and managing risk?
Yeah. So, the thing is I think that from the outside, when someone's looking at someone who's running a business or who has achieved something, whether it's in business or elsewhere, they think that they somehow always had the answers. They always got it right. And they were always a winner, maybe. And it's the furthest thing from the truth, really. For me, and something I've said is that winning isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's just about being able to get yourself out of bed another day
Oh yeah.
and continue the fight.
Yep.
And that's really it. Is you have to take the risk, and you just have to get out there and do it. And of course, mitigating risk is important. You don't want to end up on the streets. Um, but you'll be surprised, how many times you think that you're without options, and then in the 11th hour, options materialize. And it happens so frequently to me that I almost can count on it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Loving the call. Now, I'm wondering, you just touched on getting out of bed in the morning. What time are you an early riser, and what's your day look like?
Yeah, so I am generally an early riser. I'm not one of the people who sets my alarm at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. So I am often up at 5 a.m. and get after it. But
Yep.
if on a particular day it happens to be 7 a.m., then that's what it is. I'm more focused on the things that I'm getting done rather than the hours I'm putting in.
Do you find yourself to be always getting good ideas that you want to follow through with, but you just have so many of them you can't do anything with them?
Yeah. It used to be a problem. It used to be a huge problem, actually. So you have to kind of learn to harness those or put them on the back burner, because otherwise you just get spread too thin.
Yeah, you seem to be the sort of guy who'd be able to, get a lot of ideas, and do you find you have to spend some time away from your business and when your mind gets busy? How important is that?
So it's very important for your mental health. In fact, just today I was saying, like, so we launch in a month from now. And so
Yep.
I was like, it'd be great to get out of town. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's really good to kind of reset. It also kind of gets your head out of the weeds too.
Yeah.
If you're like me, a vacation isn't really a vacation. You're still kind of at least thinking about things that are going on, but you get new perspective on things when you're not really in the thick of it.
Do you like continual education? What do you think of it? Do you still find yourself reading books or audio books or videos? What's your thing?
Yeah, all of those things. I actually got three books right here that I'm picking through,
Oh
and
yeah.
audio books occasionally. I kind of, do those more in the summer when I'm out in the yard and stuff more often. But yeah, constantly, always
Are
reading.
you a fictional or non-fictional type of guy? Are you a business book guy?
All business books.
Or
Yeah.
business books? Now, what about movies? Surely you got some time for movies.
We do watch some shows
Shows.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So,
I'm
so
loving
not
this. Again, I think that, a business is a business, and the fundamentals of business don't change, but the people behind the business always do. And this is why I think it's important, just for the sake of that context, to share a little bit about yourself. And I'm really appreciating it. Thank you so very much. Now, calling on to moving our focus on to the name and brand building. Where did the name Cheap Pricks come from?
Yeah, so it was one of those things that was sort of accidental and intentional at the same time. So I have my business partner, Kristen, who we discussed earlier,
Yes.
and we have a vet that we're partnering with on this first location. He's our first licensee, actually.
Excellent.
And we had gotten together and we sort of had, so kind of back up a little bit.
Yep.
We currently own another business, Kristen and I, and we're involved in other businesses as well. This vet has two other practices that they operate as well. And we'd all sort of experienced the same sort of paths with these businesses where we had entered at one point with one sort of direction in mind, and over time it changed. It became something else that was a whole new animal that we didn't hate it, but we didn't like the fact that it had sort of been robbed from us.
Oh,
And it happened slowly, right? You get pressured by customers, by employees, by, laws, whatever, all sorts of things.
yeah. All the variables.
And so we had made the intentional decision right up front that, whatever we do here, whether it's the name or whatever it is, how we operate, who we hire, how we behave, whether it's on social media or whatever, it's going to be us. It's going to be a reflection of who we are individually, not some fictitious demeanor that we developed for this business to hide behind. And people can love it or they can hate it. But our theory was that if you loved it, you'd really love it, and you'd be kind of in our tribe, so to speak. So, a couple afternoons of brainstorming names, and this was probably one of 20 that we came up with. It was the one that we kind of just kept going back to because it's sort of perfect, and then it describes what we do, but of course it's got this alter meaning as well.
It's a great play on words. As soon as I saw it and, I understood the meaning behind it and what the service is, which we'll touch on in a moment, I thought to myself, as a pet owner, I've got to know more about this. So I think it's a really great choice. Well done. Now, I'd love to, if we could, just help people understand that this is not your first rodeo and go into, I guess, a bit more detail about that. You started out with a business called, I think it's called All Critter Care. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and, what happened after that?
Yeah, sure. Well, we still own
We
it
still
today,
do it?
actually.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
So All Critter Care was my business partner had a pet business, back in 2000 actually,
Time
and
flies, huh?
yep. And when we yeah, totally, and we met in the late 2000s, and over time we just sort of like said, hey, at the time I was a consultant, I was an IT consultant, full time,
Yep.
traveling the world, and we got to talking about it, and it was like, you could do a lot with this, and slowly I kind of got involved, and so then I was part of the company. We sort of reformed it, officially formed it, and then now we own a kennel called Kingdom Canine, where we do obviously boarding, grooming, training, daycare, those things. All Critter Care still exists for doing like dog walking and in-home pet care for other animals. And in addition to that, my partner Kristen also owns a rescue that does something like 30 or 40 adoptions a week. Or sorry,
Yes.
a month.
I was going to say, I read through the information. I found out about Kristen's work, which I was really, really fascinated by. And it's a credit to the work that's been done. Now, could you tell us a little bit about Kristen in their absence?
Yeah, so she is like the total high energy, endearing person. She's a person that if you want to send them in front of a customer, that's Kristen, right? So she
Yep.
she is really good with like just striking a nerve with people, a positive nerve, not
Yeah,
a,
of
not a negative
course.
nerve, and just getting them right in her corner, whether it's to buy something, whether it's to support her, whatever it may be. I mean, she is just top notch when it comes to that.
So I know we talked about earlier about your ability to come up with new ideas. So with the current business, Cheap Pricks, what problem did you realize you needed to solve with Cheap Pricks?
Yeah, so the problem is a few problems actually that are
Mm.
very closely linked. Obviously, pricing is a problem on pet care, on vet care
Oh yeah,
specifically.
definitely.
The other one is around time issues, right? So, even if you have all the money in the world, you don't have all the time in the world. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, time is a valuable resource.
Yep.
And so there's a couple pieces to that time component, right? So one is sort of, at least in my neck of the woods, through coming through COVID, a lot of adoptions happened. People were taking on pets, and vets were getting overwhelmed. So, there are times where you could call for just a basic routine type thing. Just get a rabies shot, for example.
Yep.
And you could be several weeks to several months out just to be able to do that, which is sort of a problem if you want to go get your dog groomed today.
Today.
Instead, you got to wait several months just for like this thing with the rabies shot. The other issue with the time is actually time in clinic. So that is, you show up and it's kind of like the doctor's office. You show up and you got an appointment, but it doesn't really mean anything. It means you're going to get serviced hopefully sometime around that time, and you don't
Within
know
that
how
day.
long. Right. So you don't know how long you're going to be waiting around for. So something that really only takes about 15 minutes to get done could turn into an hour and a half ordeal.
I can see that it would take off the pressure as well for the veterinary profession. Do you think that that's likely to happen?
Yes, absolutely. And that is a huge cornerstone of our hiring program for the vets. And we knew a bit about that sort of, I'll even call it a pandemic at this point, because
Mm.
I've learned so much since we got into the hiring phase of this. We knew some before, but now we know it's incredible. I mean, we've had vets call us and say that they're being worked to death in their current job to ask us about coming to work for us. I mean, they've learned to value that making good money and having a ton of time off and a good happy work day is more valuable than having a ton of money and being worked to death 6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah, we don't start businesses to kill ourselves, do we? That's
No,
the
we
old
don't.
adage, I guess. But I'm wondering, how are you going about connecting with all of these professionals, and what are the plans for growth across the country?
Yeah, that's a great question. So connecting with the vets has been difficult because they're not looking for jobs, right?
Yeah.
So if you go out on a job board, you can put we're out there right now, and the vets just aren't looking because either they're happy where they're at, or they figure whatever else is out there is just another flavor of the exact same thing they're doing now.
Yeah.
So they don't even know there's another option out there right now. So a lot of what we're doing is word of mouth, calling, the connections we have. So we've been in the pet business now for, well, 10 years myself and 20 years with Kristen. And so we're calling connections we know and sort of getting the word out. We have people who are working for us to do that as well. It's a very grassroots thing because they're just not out there looking around. I think that once we get the wheels turning and people are coming in, then it will be more of a known thing.
The
So
momentum.
kind of get a little easier
Yeah,
to do.
fantastic. Hopefully, we can help you do that through the show today. Now, what other, I guess let's talk about the core product itself. And do you have plans to expand that based on your knowledge of this industry?
Yep, the core product is basically, if I was going to summarize it, it's the things that a cat or dog owner would get on an annual basis as part of the regular wellness or preventative plan. So we're talking vaccinations, we're talking some limited testing, and we're
Hmm.
talking preventatives, heartworm and flea and tick preventatives.
And given the businesses that you have already, I can see some synergies of your allied industries. How is that all going to come together? Is there, I guess, a single product versus a package approach? Is that what you're doing, or
No, they're all kind of freestanding, but
independent?
they are feeding into each other. So, like I said, we're about a month out now from opening up, and we've just started to integrate the customers kind of into the new product, the
Hmm.
cheap tricks. And it actually it's going well. I mean, very well. They're signing up. They're making appointments already.
Fantastic.
It's going well. And of course, once we get some volume on cheap pricks, we'll sort of feed back the other way as well.
I know it's a fair way off, but I always think about this opportunity to go franchise. Would ever be an option for you? Is that something you've ever thought about?
It's possible to go franchise. We intentionally went with a licensing model right now based
Yep.
on how we operate. And if, you want me to dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So the way it works is we have an entity that is an administrative services organization for vet clinics,
Right.
uh, meaning that we kind of run their business for them, but it goes a little further than that.
Yep.
So our entity owns by trademark the name Cheap Pricks. And that's all been submitted, but it's, it takes a while to
Yeah, of
happen.
course, I know.
Um, so what we do is we license to a vet to operate their practice under our name, Cheap Pricks,
Yep.
in a location we provide. And what they get is basically a done for you sort of practice. So all they have to do is bring their clinical staff, and we bring 100% of all the non-clinical activities and all the non-clinical staff. So we do everything from helping them form their business entity, to finding their site, to building out their location, to managing their inventory, their payroll, accounting, everything for them. And all they have to, so that means that they can just show up and do the things that they specialize in, right? Because, vets are amazing at
Yep.
clinical activities. That doesn't mean they're amazing business owners, and they probably aren't in most cases. So we bring that sort of expertise in, and we just do a portion of proceeds, or a
Wow,
portion of profit.
that's incredible. This idea of so if somebody's practicing as a vet, and you have approached them and saying, "Hey, look, I have this opportunity for you." How often do you find vets that don't have their own clinics, and how are you managing to, I guess, encourage them to cheap pricks?
Yeah. So the beauty, it's sort of a choose your own adventure type deal. So
Yeah.
first of all, you don't have to not have your own clinic. You can actually do this in addition to that.
Oh, right, got it.
The way that would work is it would sort of depend on how active you are in your existing clinics. I'm going to assume you're probably pretty active,
Yep.
which means that you just hire the vets to work at the new clinic, and we have staff, on site already to make sure that they're kind of knowing how they already know the clinical stuff. They seem to know how to operate within the building, right? Like, how do I clock in? How do I do what I got to do, like
Do what I
with
do.
that stuff,
Yep.
right? So it's basically become sort of a passive investment for them under our brand.
Yep.
The other option is maybe you have a retired vet, and they're saying, well, I don't want to go work full time. I love retirement, but I wouldn't mind having a little extra income in retirement, and maybe pick up, a day or two a week of working just to kind of keep the skills sharp. Well, there you go.
There you
That's their
go.
model.
Absolutely.
Maybe you have a vet fresh out of school, and they're saying, I just want to accelerate directly into
Of
a
course,
program
yes.
where I own my own practice and do it without a lot of money out of pocket, and hop into an established brand. And that's an option for them. So it sort of fits the mold for a lot of different people.
I see an opportunity for, like you've just touched on, and it seems to be the sharp, pointy end of the market is to talk about how you connect with those university graduates who are looking for this step into the industry straight out of university. They're qualified, they're ready to go, and I can't imagine anything more fortuitous for them is to walk into essentially a practice that's already set up for them.
Yeah, I mean that's something we're working on right now. There's going to be some communication needs to happen around that,
Of
because what we're
course.
running into, we actually have University of Missouri Columbia, which is here in Missouri, only a few hours away from here, and they have an excellent vet school.
Yep.
What we're running into is that they're eager, right? They just spent all this time becoming a vet who has learned a whole lot of stuff,
Mm.
and they haven't yet had a whole career to understand that sometimes less is more,
Yep.
right? Having a narrower scope can be more rewarding, because it frees up the rest of your life.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, well, look, this is just wonderful. I can also, when I think about it, I think to myself, um, there'd be a lot of people out there because of the cost, the overheads, the time as pet owners. Would you think that Cheap Pricks is going to help improve the vaccination rate in the long term?
So that was actually a big motivator at the very beginning,
Mm.
and it still is a motivator. I think it will help.
Yep.
So here's some stats for you. It's around 26% of all pet owners do not take their pet to the vet. Okay,
Wow, one quarter.
we know that. What we don't know is why, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if it's only a cost factor, or maybe it's the other thing we touch on, which is they don't want to waste an hour and a half at the vet, then I think we have a chance to make an impact there. If it's just because they don't care,
Yep.
well, that's gonna take a little extra work, and hopefully we can get there. But that's obviously not something that is a direct benefit of just coming to use us.
So what sort of, we talked about hurdles, Matt. I'm wondering what other hurdles from a legal standpoint have you had to work through to get to this
Yeah.
point? And this is where the My Future Business audience gets a lot of value because they know that this is going to happen. They know that there's going to be, fences to jump over to get to where they want to be. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this is an important one. Yeah. If you haven't started a business before, listen to this.
Yeah.
So we're not veterinarians, right?
Yep.
My business partner and I are not veterinarians. And just like, if you're not a doctor, you can't go open a doctor practice anywhere. You
Yep.
have to be that, right? So there is a legal thing we had to go through, and so we've been working on this for almost exactly a year right now. So it'll be a total of 13 months before we open.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, almost half, or maybe just over half of that time was spent figuring out how are we going to do this, right? So we spent 6 or 7 months with no plan, just pushing through and figuring out, there's a way. We know there's a way because we see these chains of hospitals, we see chains of optometrists and
Yes.
dentists.
Yep.
They're not owned by vets, they're owned by corporations.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a way.
Yep.
So we did finally found the way we had to do that. And of course it is through a legal structure and through this licensing agreement we have and things like that. It all amounts to, about 70 pages of legalese.
Oh, wow. Good
But,
nighttime reading.
yes, definitely. If you're having trouble sleeping, this will help. So, but yeah, at any point along that 6 or 7 months, we could have easily said, you know what, this is not meant to be. This is too hard. But we had a feeling that there was a way through it. We just hadn't found it yet. And of course, here we are. So now we got that out of the way. And now it's just making decisions, right? Transactional decisions. Are we going left? Are we going right? Are we
Yep.
going up? Are we going down?
I'm wondering from the operational standpoint, you would have thought about and thought through every single process. And given that it's a burgeoning experience for pet owners and those who are involved with your business, what's it look like from the moment somebody comes through your door as a pet owner? How do they
Yeah,
keep,
sure.
different pets away from each other, all the logistical stuff?
Yep. So logistically, so we learned, through having the rescue that Kristen has, and you're dealing with a lot of pets from questionable situations, and of course having the kennel, we know that the interactions between pets can go a couple different ways, but
Yep.
it's better just to avoid it altogether. So yeah, I mean, there's it's not a hard split, but there's a split with an air gap, I guess, between where the people coming in and coming out are going, versus where everyone else is sort of hanging out and waiting to be
Mm-hmm.
processed through. And that's one of those things we have it at a good spot right now where we know we can open the doors.
Yep.
We'll probably change day 2, day 3, day 4 until we get it exactly right.
Matt, loving this call. I'm wondering, you talked about plans earlier. I'm wondering what is I guess, the 6 to 12 month plan from here? It's going to be fairly busy. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, so I think that I explained how we're structured and how we plan to grow, or I should
Mm.
explain like how our interaction is with a vet where they license from us and they can kind of have like a passive approach.
Yep.
We think that's going to be pretty appealing to a lot of vets, especially once they see us in operation,
Yep.
and they see it's pretty easy to say I'm going to come and run your business. I'm going to do it well. We have confidence in ourselves, obviously, to do that. But we haven't had a chance to show it yet. So they'll be coming here shortly. Once they see that in action, I think it's going to be magnetic for vets who are wanting to just bolt on revenue or be part of something that's different. Obviously, we have a different sort of environment than what they're used to. So if they match our core values and they have the same vibe as us, then I think they'll be in the door.
I think a big plus that's on your side and Kristen's side as former business owner or existing business owners is that this isn't your first rodeo, and that's going to stand you in good stead. Now, I'm wondering if you could share with us what people will find on your website and how they can start getting involved, making a booking, and guess working with you.
Yeah, sure. So on the website, you will find probably 30 plus places that say schedule an appointment now. Just like that, you can schedule an appointment, right? So most places, most places don't allow that at all. You got to call them up.
Yep.
Well, this is, almost 2022. We don't believe in that.
We're
We're going to
moving
give you
forward.
options. So you can book online, and it's not an appointment request. It's actually an appointment. So
Yep.
the second you book it, it's confirmed. You're
Love
good
it.
to go.
Yep.
And then, of course, all of our pricing is on there. all our locations will be on there. The rest of the team will be on there. It's us now. But one piece that's on there that you won't find a lot of places that we're very proud of is our core values. We spent a ton of time on those, and they're going to be everywhere. They're going to be on the walls in the place. They're going to be on invoices. They're going to be everywhere. Because we think that, well, for one, they're great for making decisions, right? Anytime you have to reprimand someone, make a decision about a supplier, make a decision about whether you're going to pick up a piece of trash off the ground, the core values guide all those decisions. So we've sort of simplified what we are doing there. But we also think that if someone can read into those core values, they'll understand who they're dealing with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, I think there's an obvious URL that people would go to if they want to learn more about Cheap Pricks. Where is that?
cheappricks.com.
cheappricks.com. There you go. For everybody's on the call today, I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. It's been a wonderful call. This is a very, very interesting, exciting opportunity for you to get involved with. Make sure you go and check it out at cheappricks.com. And with that all being said, Matt, what a wonderful call. Thank you so very much for joining me on the show today.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.